Washington Times front page for Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. The United States and Iran have agreed to a 2-week ceasefire just a few hours before President Trump's deadline to wipe out a whole civilization. Mike Glenn and Tom Howe report the president said he agreed to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks with the condition that Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz. He said a 10-point plan offered by Iran was a workable base from which to negotiate. Iran's Supreme National Security Council confirmed it had accepted the ceasefire and would negotiate with U.S. officials later this week in Islamabad, Pakistan. The Strait of Hormuz has become the most critical flashpoint of the war, and its restrictions and closure have upended global oil markets and sent gas prices soaring worldwide. The war has put U.S. forces on the ground in the crosshairs of drone swarms without the equipment needed to handle the threat, according to former defense officials and military analysts. John Seward and Ben Wolfgang report many of the Pentagon's most promising counter-drone technologies haven't been tested on real-world battlefields. That raises the prospect of significant U.S. casualties from Iranian drone attacks. U.S. forces have surged into the Middle East even as the president pushes a message that the war is nearing completion. It remains to be seen how potential peace negotiations will develop during the 2-week ceasefire. Voters in Georgia's 14th congressional district have picked Clay Fuller to replace former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress. With more than 3/4 of the vote in, Seth McLaughlin reports Fuller held a 56 to 44% lead over Democrat Sean Harris, a farmer and retired Army brigadier general who ran on a moderate message. President Trump had endorsed Fuller, but Fuller's margin of victory is on track to be less than half of Trump's 37-point win in the district in 2024. Harris pointed that out in defeat, saying the results showed Democrats are making gains and Trump's support is waning across the country. Newly installed Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche spoke to reporters for the first time since taking over for the fired Pam Bondi, defending President Trump's overhaul at the Department of Justice. Stephen Dinan reports Blanche said there is a crisis of fraud in government benefit programs and said the DOJ is already pursuing 8,000 cases. He defended firing DOJ lawyers who had worked on cases prosecuting Trump in the time between his two presidencies. Blanche said those lawyers were in an impossible situation of working for someone they had tried to imprison. Blanche said he is now firmly in charge, although Bondi is still helping with the transition. And finally, the University of Missouri has removed its sponsorship from its Black, Latino, Asian, gay, and marginalized student groups to comply with Trump administration policies. Sean Salai reports the state's flagship campus cited the need to align with a Justice Department threat to withhold federal subsidies from universities that sponsor diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. Starting in July, 5 specific student groups must apply for funding each year like any other undergraduate group, ending the university's commitment to keep them running with dedicated student fees. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.